Good afternoon. First, I would like to thank the organizer for such a crowded and interesting event. I don't think that we expected so much activity and so many people, so congratulations. This is the evidence that no one can ignore climate change. And just to update you that at the recent report by Citibank, it says that agriculture and food production use 70% of the global fresh water and are responsible for the third of global greenhouse gas emission. And the scale of the greenhouse gas emission of food production systems is comparable to that of power plants and cement manufacturing. This is probably a real problem, but it means that it is not possible anymore to separate the climate change issues from agriculture and food. Moreover, we already aware and see that around the world that climate change is already impact the agriculture and the food production. So, of course, the full value chain of food production is really complex and it has a lot of factors. And I'm sure we won't be able to address all of them. But we will focus for this panel, we'll focus on the food supply chain and the role of data-based technologies play in addressing some of the climate-related issues in this part of the value chain. So, my name is Nitza Kardish, and I am the CEO of Trendlines Agrifood Fund and the Vice Chair of Trendlines AFIC, which is a fund and innovation fund hub in Singapore. We are investing in Southeast Asia, Israel, and globally. And for the last 11 years, I'm responsible for the Agrifood investment. So, and I'm very happy that we are like 11 years after we started and so much activity in agri and food. Today with us, two distinguished and expert panelists. And I must say that I met Ilai, I think that 10 years ago.
I think it was 2016.
So I'm not good in mathematics, but it was many years. And I'm so happy to see what happened since then. So Ilai is the CEO, co-founder of Trellis, and also with us, Julia Levy, a VP corporate development of CropX, which we know very well. And they are here to share with us their insight on that specific issue. So thank you for being here, and let's go get started straight to the point. First, please introduce yourself shortly, and then I will address some questions to both of you and specific to each one. Ilai.
Okay, great. Yeah, really looking forward to this panel, and it's great to connect with you, Nitza. I think the mother of AgTech in Israel.
You can ways. Call me grandmother already.
Okay, yeah. So we wouldn't know. But anyway, my name is Ilai Englard, tech entrepreneur, expertise most of my career in big data and AI, and started Trellis end of 2018 to solve big challenges in the food supply chain, in the global food supply chain.
Good. Julia.
So I'm Julia Levy, VP Corporate Development at CropX for 9 months. Before that, I was working in biopesticide, bringing biopesticide to the world from Stockton, based on plants. And even before that, I was working for a French public entity, helping to develop biodiversity in France. So I'm very happy to see what is arriving in Israel, and looking forward also to this panel.
Okay, great. Thank you. So Ilai, and after that, you, Julia, you can pay attention to the question. Can you elaborate more in details? What are the technologies that your companies are developing, and how are they helping the food system to mitigate the climate change and make farmers to be more resilient in the face of climate change challenges? And I will add something that is really to your point, is how do use data enhancement to confront climate risk and maximize climate impact?
Okay, thanks. So in short, what we do is we work with food and beverage companies, and food and beverage companies rely on agriculture production for raw ingredients. And we essentially help them upgrade their supply chain, make it a smart supply chain. It means that they have more control over quality and yield of agricultural production. They have more control over their production and things like food waste and quality of production and sales. So we help them improve their profit and the entire performance across the supply chain. We do it all with data and AI, so no sensors. So we leverage existing data sources across the chain. And one of the things that happened since we met is that there is a lot of data. I think when we started, CropX started in 2014, 15, many sensors in the ground, in the air, drones, satellites. So we take all that data together with inventory data, market data. We put everything together and we help food companies plan better their supply chain and manage it better. But to answer your second question, the climate angle, with climate, there are two aspects. There is mitigation and adaptation. And we work with food and beverage companies, and the immediate thing is adaptation, because we see more and more extreme events, and these companies need to be able to react much faster. So for example, in California right now, there were like 2 weeks of extreme heat, and there is expected 3 weeks of rain. And this has impact across the board. It means that they're going to harvest earlier than what they planned, about 3 weeks. It means that they need to be able to accommodate that from a logistical point of view, labor, capacity in factories. It means that it's going to affect their yield. These events can drop yields by 30%. We've seen last year losses of 40, 50% in yield and quality. So these are the things that we help them manage with adaptation.
So you can prevent these losses by having the information ahead. How exactly?
So we can help them adapt faster. Okay. We can, for example, planning harvest is very difficult if you're sourcing from, 200 growers and 1,000 different fields. Mm-hmm. It's a very hard problem to solve. And with systems like Trellis, in one click, they can take all the parameters into account: quality, yield, the cost per ton, capacity, logistics, and decide what is the best course of action to adapt to this event. So this is adaptation. With mitigation, what we're seeing is that obviously we know that we want to be in a zero waste supply chain. And supply chain is 30% loss globally, and that accounts for about 12% of global emission. So if we make the supply chain more efficient and we cut food loss and food waste, then we're able to also cut the carbon footprint. And this is kind of a long term. We see more companies moving from adaptation also to mitigation and reducing the supply chain footprint.
Would you refer supply chain also to the previous panel, the transportation, or you are speaking about other?
No, the freight, and logistics, and transportation is a huge aspect of optimizing the supply chain, yeah. And there are companies that are expert in that, and there are algorithms to really solve these problems. I can tell you that we also see companies reducing package weight in order to reduce carbon footprint, etc. So it's a multi-layer solution.
Yeah, thank you, Ilai. Julia, it's your turn.
Yes, at CropX we work before. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. We are helping growers at the agronomic level. We help them to optimize the yield and to get data from the ground and above the ground to be able to optimize their inputs and then reduce inputs. And that way, by reducing the inputs and optimizing their yield, they save, they reduce their carbon footprint, meaning that with our system, they're able to reduce on average like by 20% the pesticide level and the chemical load into the farm. They're also able to reduce by up to 50% the water use just by knowing what is really happening into the ground and having a direct impact on the carbon footprint of their farm just by getting the data from our software solution.
So it is not only the software, you have also hardware, you have the sensors
yes.
That collect the data, and then this is in the ground. And
you're mixing data from the ground with sensors, but you're also
using... What kind of data? What they are collecting?
So you're getting humidity, you're getting temperature, you're getting EC, which is a proxy for salinity. So you're getting a lot of information from the ground. You also can get the size of the roots to know how your crop is developing. So the sensor collects all this data. It's grouping it with data from satellite, from crop models, from all the machinery that is coming. All this is works with AI, and all that is providing to the growers real insights that you can use immediately. Not complicated graphs, but like, hi guy, stop irrigating. If you irrigate, you're going to lose nitrogen, create nitrogen leaching, and it will cost you a lot, and you will use too much water, for example.
Yeah. I'm in favor of saving resources and, of course, emphasize the importance of food waste, which, usually everyone is speaking about increasing the yield. We need more and more, and I think that we need less and less, and we have to really use everything that is product, and then not to waste like 40% of the food. Now, can you please share with us the impact traction of your company, and what are the drivers behind the market adopting your solution? And looking down the road 5 years from now, how do you see the impact of Trellis and CropX on the ground from the measurable and visible perspective? I think that the ability to measure is critical, and I would like to hear about that. We would like to hear.
So, just to touch on what you said earlier, food waste and food loss is normally a planning issue. It's just like we throw the rotten tomato from our refrigerator. It's the same thing. We bought too much, we didn't use it on time. Now, when you look at a big factory that's sourcing, 1 million tons of tomato a year, it's just much bigger impact. But it's the same concept. So it's a planning issue of buying too much, too little. And this is the first thing that we do, is to measure our impact, is what is the total value of the produce that we impact. So right now we're covering about $3 billion of value total. And we work with, as I said, food and beverage companies. And we build a platform to provide the AI insights in 3 areas. So the first one is on the operational level. Okay. So from who to buy, how to manage yield, quality around harvest, the entire supply chain into production, inventory, etc. This is the more operational level. The second aspect is planning. So we discuss things that are in a time range of 6 to 12 months, but there is some also long-term planning that companies need to do because of not extreme events, but climate change. Okay. So to plan what to plant where, this is a 5 to 10 year decision. Which varieties are going to grow in which geography. So these are kind of a long-term planning decisions that we empower. And the third aspect is around financial risk. Okay, because climate change is causing financial risk, it increases the unit cost. Growing tomatoes in California 2 years ago it was $72 per ton. Right now is way over 100. So climate risk plays a key role in that.
Thank you. Julia?
So from our part, we really see attraction in the market right now. We really see growers that want to change things, because they cannot make it anymore. As Ilai said, we have seen places where the yield have been decreasing by 50% just because of the drought. For example, in potatoes, this year in France, you have an average like 20% less yield. And growers need to cope with that. They also need to cope with nitrogen prices increase. They have doubled in less than 2 years. And at the same time, rising regulations and need for producing more. So all the growers are like squeezed and they try to find solution. And we have a lot of requests from growers directly to find solutions to help them to get to help them manage what they cannot manage alone. And we see this traction today. We have like more than 4,000 growers already using our solution. And
you can see some difference in their results comparing to the, before they use your technology. Is that measurable, as we mentioned before?
Yes, we are always in touch with our growers to check, and we are asking them, like, first, a grower, if they don't see the reward, they're not going to pay again. They're willing sometimes to try. They don't like to try, but sometimes they're willing to try. But if they don't see an immediate ROI, if they don't see that the solution is bringing financial impact to their bottom line, you can tell them whatever you want about sustainability. They are not to subscribe.
For sure.
So, and
I'm surprised that they are willing to pay in advance. I mean, not the second time when it doesn't work. I mean, we all know that. And this is my next topic. We heard before that a good startup or a good company is a technology that addressing a need, and that the technology or the solution is simple and accessible, and most importantly, the price. And there is, the perceptions that it is costly to develop a climate resilient farm and food supply chain. I'm not sure it's true, but this is something that we hear around. And at bottom line, someone had to pay for that, as we spoke about the farmer. And the farmers, or they can't afford it, or they don't want to pay for that. So how do you solve that? And how can we make it possible for small growers, which are the major supplier of food all over? I mean, 70% of our food supply is from smallholders. So how we can make to get access to how we can access the innovation for them, and can carbon farming help smallholders to adopt climate friendly agriculture practice? Do you have an idea
so I think
to do it?
Yeah, so I think where the world is growing, we shift from selling technology to the individual farmer to selling to the entire system. And we see the large food and beverage companies take responsibility over the entire supply chain and value chain. Because if they don't have good agriculture products, they cannot feed us. Okay? So the fact that they're taking responsibility from a financial point of view to make sure that the farmers are happy and
happy mean what?
Mean that their well-being, their profits. It's one system. So thinking about system approach, I think is good for everyone, and I think that will help farmer adoption of any technology. Okay, so
it's not a question of how friendly is the technology.
Of course, products need to
simple, how friendly, how it's
Yeah, I was referring more to Yeah, obviously products need to solve a problem, and we need to develop good products and iterate with the users and so on and so forth. But, there's a lot of talent to be able to solve these problems. I'm talking more of financial adoption and to be able to pay and afford this innovation. I think the fact that the big corporates who have, higher margins than the farmer, the fact that they take responsibility and the bigger brands put the farmer in center stage, I think great for the industry, and that will help adoption. Yeah. I think we will see also the same thing with, managing carbon and shifting to regenerative. So I think, the first wave of innovation of agtech was grow more with less. Okay, with sensors, with AI, whatever. I think right now we need to shift to, from monoculture to polyculture and regenerative agriculture. So we need data to be able to show everybody that regenerative agriculture is the future. It preserves the environment. It builds more resilient production system from the farm.
It will take some time to show them.
And it will take some time, and that's the most difficult thing to measure. So we talked about measuring. So it's easier to measure, what is the carbon footprint per ton. And if I'm throwing away 1,000 tons, I multiply that by 1,000. Okay, this is my carbon footprint. With regenerative agriculture and other practices, it's such a long cycle. It's much harder to measure. And I think there's a lot of room for innovation there and also capital.
When you speak about innovation in that aspect, do you refer to new methodology or of measuring or capturing the data?
I think that we need to be able to know what is the, carbon footprint across the entire value chain. Every step of the way, what is the carbon footprint? And the way we see the vision is that the farmers and the producers who can control and mitigate, they will be able to sell the carbon credit downstream to the retail and transportation, where there is going to take, longer to do that. But I think we need to treat farmers as the solution, not the problem, and shift to more sustainable farming. This is the...
Julia, I know that CropX is really looking at the farmers and the smallholders as well. So can you share with us what you really do?
So first, we really worked on developing a product that is not expensive, so that the grower, not all the growers, but most growers could use. Our product is completely do-it-yourself, even our sensors. So they don't need additional service. They don't need expensive service providers to come and explain them. It's like they just put it in the ground, open their app, and it's going running. So we make the product easy for the growers. The interface, we are working a lot on that to be very insightful in 2 clicks, because more than 2 clicks, they cannot make it. So we make it easy and easy to understand. And all that reduce the prices for the grower. However, we have the same experience as Ilai. We think that corporate can bring a lot of value to the growers. We, for example, have a partnership with PepsiCo. PepsiCo is known for Pepsi, but is also the largest buyer of potatoes in Latin America, because they are producing chips. So they're sourcing from all of Latin America and potatoes, and they have a lot of small growers, exactly, or target very hard to reach. And what they're doing, they're subsidizing our system for the growers and expanding progressively to all Latin America with our system. It proved itself. They did a proof of concept, proved itself in Mexico. Now 200 growers are using it in Mexico, and they are expanding all over Latin America. And we see that corporate involvement is critical for small growers.
I agree. I totally agree. I think that they have a crucial role in changing, but in a fundamental way. And I believe that all the regulation now that's implemented all over is enforcing them. I'm not sure they like to do it, but it's enforcing them to take part of the play, and they are a major player in making the change.
Just one comment on that. I think we have time.
Yeah.
Because these companies control so much value, and they buy a lot of potato, they produce a lot of chips, they sell, they market it, we see it everywhere. If they have some glitch in their planning, the carbon footprint really increases, as well as the profitability for everyone. So, for example, planning issue or a weather risk or something that happens. This is a true story, okay? They didn't have enough local potato to source. So they had to fly potatoes all the way from Texas and the Midwest, to a totally different continent, so they have enough chips to sell. Okay, so these companies are profit-driven. They don't want to, they hate losing profit and revenue. And companies are losing revenue because of supply chain problems today, not because of sales and marketing. So the supply chain and agriculture commodities and all of that is going to be the big problem for every company that relies on natural goods.
Agree. So I can tell you that as an investor, we are not going to meet any startups if he doesn't have a line in his slide. We are sustainable. We know how to measure carbon. I'm a bit suspicious about it because it's all over. So, like us, Agrifood investors are expecting startups to be able to measure and quantify the positive environmental impact that your technology are bringing. So how do you manage, with the reality of what is happening, with what of happening in the ground, in reality? Because I'm afraid that we are in time that, how do you say masfatime?
The greenwashing. Yeah, there's a lot of
greenwashing. That it is all around, and some will take advantage of that, on that, and this is really break my heart, because the mission that we took on our shoulder is critical, and we have to be sure that we are doing the right thing to achieve that. By the way, all the data that I quote at the beginning, the 70% of fresh water, 30% of, I think that it might be true and correct, but we will have to find something that will move the needle, not only from the ag tech and food tech. There are many others industries, and we have to, work together. But from our perspective as investors and as startups, we have to be committed to be transparent and to be, honest with what we are saying and
Absolutely.
claiming. So, what do you have to say? You.
Okay, so I will tell you, for us, this is maybe the easy part, because in fact, since we're really saving water, really saving fertilizer, and really saving chemicals, and that growers, if they were not saving money, they wouldn't use us. It's an easy calculation. We know on average how much we're helping them to save, and we can calculate that. The carbon calculation is more tricky, and we have to rely on external partners that are making the calculation and to extrapolate based on that. But as I said, we're for us, it's not that problematic, because we know what we save, and we were able to demonstrate it. And we have many third parties, many partners that did proof of concept, and they help us to really quantify it. So hopefully we make the right calculation.
Ilai.
Yeah, so, as mentioned, some things are easier to calculate than other things. I think with, carbon calculators are going to be widespread, so we know what is the carbon footprint per ton produced and so on. Also, PLANETech, ClimateTech has these calculators, so we're going to be able to measure that more, faster and more accurately. I think the longer term implications are going to be harder to measure. So, for example, if we want to promote farmers to move to more regenerative, sustainable farming methods, there is some risk involved in losing yield, in changing practices and protocols.
For the short term.
For the short term, in order to build a more resilient system on the longer term. Yeah. And we've seen that in many industries, right? You stop spraying and you build resilience, and you stop, you move from monoculture to polyculture, you increase biodiversity. That builds a more resilient system. We see that, and that is harder to measure, and we need to evolve in that respect. with regards to your question about greenwashing and how investors look at it, I think, first of all, it's not necessarily a bad thing. The fact that there is a problem and everybody wants to be, part of that, but
be part of the problem or be part of the solution?
No, be part of the ecosystem. Be part of the ecosystem. I think it brings more entrepreneurs, more investors, more people involved, and that's good. Investors know generally when a company in its core is solving a climate tech company or not. Okay, do you have some solution that in its core is helping in mitigating or adapting? And at the end of the day, we have to also know that with agriculture, it has huge impact, but it's so fragmented and so diverse that there isn't really like one solution. It's not like energy that you say, okay, if I have an energy miracle, I'm going to solve problems. CO2 is a molecule. And
by the way, it's not a bad molecule.
Exactly. It builds calories.
Yeah, we are carbon. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that another commitment that we have to take on our shoulder is that what we are doing can't stand alone. It has to resonate to others, to other companies, to other industries. This is the biggest and the long-term mission. Okay, we have 2 minutes, and I would like to ask you again on a personal level, in one sentence, why you are invested so much in what you are doing. Why is the most important question. So why? Yuli.
We are doing that because because I terribly feel the emergency. There is this, we have a problem. We in my generation, like I'm not that, we didn't really feel that, but it really begins. I was in Europe this summer and everything was dry, and we need to make things change, because if we're not changing, there will be not a long-term problem, a medium, like now. So I feel the emergency, and I want to be part of the solution.
Ilai. Yeah, so I really passionate about the power of innovation and technology to solve problems. And I think, if there are opportunities to do good and, to build like more sustainable future with this ability to create and build technology, I think I love it. I really enjoy it. And one last thing, if I may, just before we close up, I think one of our commitments as a company, as an ecosystem, is to give back to the planet. I think this is something that I would like to see. We are going to commit to 3% of profit to invest in local projects for biodiversity, for regenerative farming. And the more VCs, investors, companies that are making profit, giving back to the planet, I think people are going to learn from that, and they're going to, they're going to follow. So I urge everyone to Google what the CEO of Patagonia did just recently. That inspired me personally as an entrepreneur, and I think this is the future.
Okay, so if I may summarize, I will give my one sentence. I'm a very pessimistic person, really, very pessimistic. And the fact that I'm doing such an optimistic work enabled me to live. Otherwise, I would die. Thank you very much.